President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday issued a stern warning to all ministers, permanent secretaries, and other top government officials not to involve themselves in electioneering activities ahead of the general election scheduled for the first quarter of 2023. Buhari gave the directive at the end of the two-day 2022 Ministerial Performance Review retreat held at the Conference Hall of the State House, Abuja. He warned ministers, permanent secretaries, and heads of government agencies not to abandon the business of governance for electioneering, saying any infraction will be viewed seriously. The President's directive was preceded by his signing of Executive Order 012 on improving performance management, coordination, and implementation of presidential priorities. He directed the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, to continue with the quarterly review process and assessment of ministries for the third and fourth quarter of 2022, saying the report would form part of the transition document of his administration to the incoming government. To achieve that objective, Buhari ordered all ministers and permanent secretaries to ensure that the performance reports of their ministries were submitted on a quarterly basis to the SGF for review by the Central Delivery Coordination Unit. The outcome of these reviews would be made available for many consideration, the President said. The President stated that despite the commencement of campaigns toward the general 2023 election, the business of governance must continue to receive needed attention. He said, consequently, all ministers, permanent secretaries, and heads of agency must remain focused in the discharge of their duties, as any infraction will be viewed seriously. Our collective goal is to map out a transition plan for the incoming administration to ensure proper documentation of all the policies, programs, and projects of government with up-to-date status of implementation. Buhari stated that the lessons learned in the last 3 years of implementing the administration's policies, programs, and projects was the needed tool to propel every ministry to remain committed towards the achievement of development objectives. He charged all ministers, permanent secretary, and heads of government agencies to step up, double their efforts, and work in synergy towards total delivery of the administration's set targets. On Executive Order 12, the President explained that it would institutionalize a culture of accountability and transparency in the pursuit of good governance. Buhari declared that following discussion and recommendations, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development had been directed to engage with relevant stakeholders to ensure the completion of all large-scale interpreted rice processing mills before the end of this administration. According to him, this will help our country to maintain sufficiency in the local production of rice, as the ban on the importation of foreign rice will be sustained. On electricity, Buhari directed that all hands must be on deck to ensure timely realization of the increase in electricity generation to 2,000 megawatts in 6 years. He stated that the plan on electricity generation through partnership with the federal government of Nigeria and German Siemens AG was on course, as the first batch of transformers for the project had arrived in Nigeria already. Considering the huge investment made in the rail sector, the President directed the Ministry of Transportation and relevant security agencies to ensure the provision of maximum security along the rail corridors. He stated, we must ensure the safety of our rail users and strive to achieve the intended economic goals. We must at the same time ensure realizable schedule and first-class maintenance. Following the milestone recorded in the road sector, coupled with the innovative ways of funding road infrastructure, the Ministry of Works and Housing has been directed to compile a list of all completed roads, bridges, and other infrastructure for commissioning before the end of this administration. He further directed the federal government's investment in the reconstruction of 21 selected ongoing federal roads, totaling 1,804 kilometers under the Road Infrastructure Development and Refurbishment Investment Tax Credit Policy must be closely monitored and tracked to ensure the roads were completed and scheduled. In line with the outcome of the panel section on Priority 4, Improved Transportation and Other Infrastructure, the Ministry of Aviation is hereby directed to conclude and ensure the take-off of the National Carrier Project before the end of this year, Buhari said. In order to expand the fiscal space and improve the country's revenue generation, Buhari directed the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to ensure effective implementation of the Strategic Revenue and Growth Initiative. In the same vein, we must also build synergy synergy between the fiscal and monetary authorities in order to avoid unnecessary drawbacks in our economic planning and performance, he said. On implementation of Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, Buhari directed that a monitoring and evaluation framework be put in place by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with the relevant agency and partners to track the disbursement and utilization of the fund. Speaking on humanitarian issues, the president stated that in the 3 years of existence of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, the ministry had provided substantial support and assistance to vulnerable citizens through various programs. He directed the minister to facilitate and work with the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, in transmitting the Federal Executive Council's approved National Social Investment Program Establishment Bill to the National Assembly. He said this would ensure the sustainability of the program intended to leave a lasting legacy for vulnerable Nigerians. The president also directed the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to engage relevant stakeholders to secure privatization of the 6 special economic zones as approved by the Bureau of Public Enterprise. To complement the current efforts in the oil and gas sector, the president announced that the Ministry of Petroleum Resources had been mandated to ensure completion of the reorganization of the new agency unbundled from the defunct Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in line with their mandates. This should be completed by the end of the first quarter of 2023, he said. Buhari used the forum to appeal to the National Assembly to fast-track the consideration and passage of key legislative bills as agreed during the panel section at the retreat. This will serve as our collective legacy towards entrenching key reform that will serve as a springboard for the next administration, he said. Buhari described the 2-day retreat as time well spent, saying it has provided an opportunity for reflection and lesson learning aimed at reviewing progress and agreeing on key actions that will ensure we finish well by the end of our administration come May 29, 2023. We have used the opportunity provided by this retreat to carry out an objective assessment of our commitments in line with the contract we signed with the Nigerian people at the section of this administration in 2019. I am glad to note that we have sustained this yearly stock-taking innovative initiative introduced in 2019 by holding 3 consecutive performance review retreats in 2020, 2021 and 2022 respectively. This has helped us to clearly identify what we have done, what needs to be done and how best to get it done. From the assessment report and discussion at this retreat, it is evident that we have made appreciable progress through collective efforts in setting the nation on the path of sustainable development while improving the well-being of our people. Notwithstanding these achievements, there are still unfinished businesses that we must speedily complete to ensure we finish well. We must therefore endeavor to close every gap in our implementation efforts to ensure the attainment of set targets by 2023. He thanked former President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, the keynote speaker at the retreat, for sharing his wealth of experience during his tenure in office, commending the SGF and his team for successfully organizing 4 retreats in the life of the administration. Buhari acknowledged the support of the technical partners and resource persons in adding immense value to the process.